If you've ever woken up at 5 in the morning to get to work in the freezing cold, your fingers still numb. If you've brought home a paycheck that was written out on a penny before it even got into your hands, you'll understand. This story is not about bad luck and not about evil fate. This story is about love, it's about trust, and how it can turn against you. I built this house for 40 years. Not only the brick walls, not only the roof, which I repaired myself every summer, but that invisible house is life. A family. A wife, 2 children, late dinners on the veranda, where it smells like jasmine and grilled corn. A home where everyone is my own. Where the cat sleeps on my slippers and my granddaughter hides a doll in my old helmet. And when I retired, I thought this is it. I did everything right. I worked, saved, invested, took care. You, in the 21st century, financial problems don't come on foot. They come by Uber. First there was Steve, my son. He was always special. At school, he didn't want to wear a uniform. In college, he didn't want to go. Then he started startups, one after another. Cryptocurrencies, NFTs, online casino for dogs, I'm not kidding. Dad, I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. I just need a little money. And my heart was not the same as it was in my 30s, but I opened a retirement account, and I gave him some money. A pension is like a concrete floor. It's strong until you start drilling into it. Then Sarah came along, my drawdard, always so smart and correct. She cried over the memory diary and wouldn't let me put plastic in the regular trash, and then she calls. Dad, Josh lost his job. We have a mortgage. If we lose our house, the kids will be on the street. What was I supposed to say? That I hadn't worked for 40 years to save others. I didn't see how my future was gradually turning into their present. I did not notice when the house was no longer mine. Not legally, but morally. I was invited only when I needed help with the bills or with the children. From the person who built everything, I became the backup. My place was at the grill when they had guests. My place was nowhere. Everything exploded when the offer came. One real estate agent convinced me that the price of my house was outer space. Sell it now and you'll live in peace. Hurrah! And Steve and Sarah already had ideas as dad. Sell it, we'll split the money, you'll have enough for your apartment and retirement. And we'll have enough to start. They promised. We won't leave you, Dad. You'll live with us. Or we'll find you something comfortable. Sounds good, on paper. But the soul is not on paper, and the heart does not calculate interest. I sold, everything even looked romantic, a new apartment, a new beginning. The apartment was small. A concrete box with laminate flooring and the smell of paint. There was no smell of coffee in the morning. There was no crunch of trees underfoot. And you know what? I was leaving there not as a winner, but as an IDP. And no one noticed how I became silent. A few months passed. They started calling less often. They were busy. New businesses. New problems. They didn't ask for more money. Because there was nothing to ask for. I saw on the news how the NFT market collapsed. Sarah's story with the mortgage didn't work out either. They moved. They didn't say where. One morning I found my first mug from work in an old box. It read, "Live for yourself, not just for a salary." And I laughed, because for these 40 years, I lived not only for a salary. I lived to give more, and I received less. And then I received a letter from the bank about an error in processing pension payments. The beginning of the end, or the beginning of a new beginning, if you have the strength to rethink everything. But who am I without my home? Without my children by my side? Without a dream that kept me alive? They say that parents are those who will always be there for you. But what if near is not the yard outside the window, but 20 minutes of silence on the phone. A what if? For the sake of the children. You eat yourself up piece by piece, and they don't even notice that you've almost disappeared. When I was young, I had help too. My dad gave me a down payment on a truck. My mom gave me advice that seemed like moralizing at the time, but now it's gold coins. And I said to myself, I will do even more for my own. I loved them. And I still do. Even now, when it hurts. After selling the house, Steve was back in the project. This time, he was delivering drones to small towns. Dad, this time we've got it all figured out. We have a TikTok campaign, and the young people are already burning with the idea. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he was asking or the fact that I knew I wouldn't be able to say no. Let's be honest, I'm not stupid. I saw that money would never come back. When you look into your grown son's eyes and see a boy who once lost a glove and was crying, how can you say no? We are not buying a dream. We buy peace of mind. For ourselves that we have done everything. For them that they didn't miss their chance. Sarah was not far behind. After the move, they had to furnish their new home. The children had to go to school. They needed laptops, comfortable furniture, and a water filter. They sent me a list. I didn't ask for it, they just threw it at me. I didn't even have time to ask why there was so much. I just went to the bank. This word, pensioner loan, sounded in my head for a long time. Not because it was difficult for me to pay, but because I felt that I was crossing a line. I was giving away the future I had. For what? A thank you, Dad, in a voicemail. One evening I was sitting with my wife before she died. And she's saying, they're not bad, they're just weaker than you, and they know that you will always pull through. It hit me then, because I realized they are no longer growing. They are no longer trying, because I am their insurance. I didn't care they didn't pay me back. It bothered me that they didn't ask how I was, not how my heart was, or my housing, or how I was sleeping. It all came down to inquiries, like in a bank, only without interest. And no return. Once Steve sent me a photo of a new electric scooter. The caption, for the office, Dad, now I'm mobile. And I thought, this is my money. And I remembered how he wanted a bike when he was a kid. And I was looking for money for it for 3 months. And I cried in the shower whenever I could. And now it's just a purchase. Just another thing, without value. I tried to talk to her. Sarah brushed me off. Dad, it's such a time. Everyone is taking, everyone is redistributing. You're just old school. And I was silent. Because I am old school. I come from the school where you don't abandon your parents. And you don't forget who paid for your life. And then another problem appeared. An unexpected one. Her name is Lisa. She is young. Smiling. Next to Steve. With a dollar tattoo. But that's another story, the next one. Because with money, everything always starts with love. And it ends with the collection of conscience. They always say, one more time. But for some reason this time is always more than the previous one. And every time it sounds so mundane, as if helping is not an act of love but a duty, like morning coffee. But love, when stretched to infinity, becomes thinner than a thread. And it breaks. Sarah called in the evening. I was just about to heat up some soup. It had been a hard day, and my old joints were reminding me of themselves. Where can you help us a little? We're behind on our car insurance payments. And without it, I can't take the kids to school. The voice was even gentle. But something inside me tightened. Because I knew what was coming next, Doug. Thank you, you're the best. And silence. It was not the first. One more time. And not the 10th. I started counting to stop myself. Last year I sent them $7,000. And it was not a gift. It was a need. Theirs. And I had another one to live on in silence, not to fight, not to spoil the relationship. It's temporary, Dad. We're just in a hole right now. Everything will get better. I've heard this phrase so many times that sometimes it seems like it's written in my head, like an automatic software update, only nothing gets updated. Not in life, not in relationships. I tried to explain. Sarah, I don't work anymore. I live on a pension that is smaller than a supermarket check. She paused. Dad, I understand. But you always said that family comes first. Yes, I did. But I didn't say that the most important thing is to be a bank when you have zero in your account. I didn't sleep that night. I looked at the ceiling. I thought about my wife. If she had been there, maybe I could have said no, but I was alone. And the fear of loneliness always won. Because if you don't help, will they call next time just like that? Will there be a call without a next time? And then I saw the photo. Facebook. Sarah's page. They were at Disneyland this weekend. Kids with ice cream. Steve is wearing a new jacket. Caption family is when you're together. And my fridge is empty. Mayonnaise and 2 potatoes. I sat there and wondered if I made them like this. Maybe if I had given them a little more responsibility instead of money, they would have been different. But I kept choosing peace. And this peace began to strangle me, quietly but surely. I was not ashamed to live modestly. I was ashamed to be used. I tried to talk about this with a friend, Bill, with whom I used to work in a workshop. He shrugged his shoulders. Son, I just don't give. I can tell you right away, I can barely breathe. I envied his simplicity. But I had another burden, love, the kind that does not turn off at will. Sometimes I talk to myself, out loud. It's not your fault. You just wanted them to have a better life. But they didn't realize the price. This phrase is like a prayer. It doesn't save you, but it calms you down. For a few minutes. And then I received a call after which I realized that it was not just one more time. This is the end, Steve. The words, Dad, we pawned one of your things. But you don't mind, do you? And I realized that I no longer even owned myself. In every parenting story, there comes a moment when you don't save, you tear. Not because you don't love, but because there is no more of you left. In the call from Steve was quiet, almost guilty. Dad, we pawned your generator. The one you kept in the garage. They gave us $2,000 in cash. I was silent. Not even because I didn't know what to say. Like a but because something inside me broke. Like a rubber band that had been stretched too long. We'll return everything. Honestly, it's just that things are complicated right now. I knew this mantra. I could even say it with him. Get it back. All of it. Honestly. Did you even ask? I finally squeezed out. Ask what? Whether I'm okay with it. Silence. This short silence was longer than the years of parenthood. Because she told me the truth for the first time, they didn't care. Not out of malice, but out of habit. I hung up the phone, for the first time, without saying goodbye. And for the first time, there was no fear in my mind that they would not call again. There was something else, a quiet, almost calm anger. Not at them, at myself. Because I let it happen. How many times did I cover their debts? How many times have I lied to myself? This time is definitely the last time. How many times did I choose to remain silent in order not to lose contact with them? And I realizing I had lost it long ago. That connection was fake, like a rope tied to empty air. That evening I went to the garage. I sat down on an old stool and stared at the empty space where the generator used to be. This metal box was not just a piece of machinery. It was a symbol of my efforts. It was my hope, and now it wasn't. I began to look through the boxes in confusion. The photos. They were still small. Sarah on a swing. Steed is in a TV box, laughing. I'm the younger one, and happy. And then I was taking the chain off my neck to cover their study trip. Then they hug me with their diplomas. And somewhere after that, the photos end. Because since then I was not a dad, but an assistant. I did not sleep. In the morning I went to the pawn shop. I found it. I looked the employee in the eye, young, impudent. This is my generator. It was not pawned by you. I know. If you want to buy it back, pay $2,500. I turned around and left, because it was not about the metal. It was about the fact that they would not steal from me again. I wrote a message. Sarah. Steve. Kids. I love you guys, but I can't be your bank anymore. I am a human being, and my time is running out. If you need love, it is always with me. If you need money, look elsewhere. He sent it, and turned off the phone. My heart was beating like a teenager before his first confession. I told myself over and over again, you are not cruel. You just chose yourself. It sounded selfish. But there was nothing more human. No one came to see me. No one knocked on the door. I thought there would be a scandal, tears, hysterics. But there was silence. And this silence suddenly turned out to be not loneliness. It was freedom. And then someone knocked on the door. Not children. And not acquaintances. A man from the company. He was holding a paper. Your daughter left you as a guarantor for a loan of $80,000. We have all the documents. And I realized that the breakup was one-sided, and I was still tied up. I thought retirement was when you finally exhale. But my exhaling began with the fact that I had nothing to breathe. The envelope was thin, official. I recognized it from the doorstep, bank paper. I opened it and saw a line that pierced my stomach. Your debt to the bank is currently $84,000. Signature, as a guarantor. Then the amount, interest, schedule. Signatures, and her signature, Sarah's. I am my daughter. I immediately remembered the generator. $2,000. I thought that was the limit. I was wrong. It was just a trailer. I had just retired. The first check was $1,425. About a half of it has already been spent on medicine. The second half was for renting a trailer because I rented out my house to help the kids. I had $80 left until the next month, and now it's minus $84,000. How could she not tell me? How could she set me up like that without a call, without a word, without a look? And now I just have to pay, because I'm a dad. I was going to go. For the first time in a year, Anna Sarah lived 20 minutes away from me. The car was old, the fuel was almost empty, but I had to. I didn't need the money. I wanted to see her eyes, and for once I wanted to hear the truth. She opened the door in her pajamas. She was calmed and made up. In the background, on TV, a man in shorts with a beer. Dad, what happened? Your loan? I'm the guarantor. Oh, the old one? When the bank just charged me? She shrugged. We were supposed to close it, but life got a little complicated. Everyone does now. Don't worry, I'll get it out somehow. How? Well, another loan. Plus, Andy has an investment coming up. Hey. Andy waved her from the couch and said, Yo, George, it's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. And I did, right in the heart. I didn't scream. I just left. Because in that room I was not a father. I was a credit history with a signature. I sat down with a notebook. I calculate everything. My pension savings were zero. The house was rented out. I have no income. Medicines are getting more expensive. My debt is $84,000. I wrote in a column on the side, how to live, and I couldn't add a single number. I dialed Bill, my friend from my youth. He was the only one who told me 10 years ago, stay out of this. Love for children is not measured in credits. He said, briefly, if you want, come, I have a part-time job. We'll give you something, and I agreed, because my retirement began with a backpack and a chainsaw in someone else's garden. Bill gave me a place, an old garage, a mattress, an electric kettle, and most importantly, silence. For the first time in years, I woke up without waiting for a wake-up call. Only back pain and the smell of gasoline. But that pain is honest, and that smell is mine. One evening I opened the mail, a new letter. From a lawyer. A dark grid of words. A lawsuit for debt collection. The property pledged is a trailer, and I realized I was being squeezed to the bone. Even that old metal box on wheels was no longer mine. When I was a kid, my dream was simply a house, a garden, and silence. Now my children have dreams of 1,000 subscribers, a Tesla on lease, and a pit stop in Dubai. And all this is under my guarantees. Sarah, my daughter, is officially an influencer. She has 136,000 subscribers on TikTok. Of course, I was proud at first. Imagine my child so popular. Everything was beautiful there, ladders, children in fashionable overalls, a man with pumped-up arms in the background. Everything looked like an advertisement. Until I realized that it was an advertisement. Only the life behind it was credit cards, late fees, and tear filters. Her husband, Andy, had a startup, drop shipping. No warehouses, no office, just a laptop and dreams. He used to say, George, we're on the verge of an explosion. It's only a matter of time before TikTok takes us to the top. I wanted to ask him, which top? Because in fact they were already on another list. The list of debtors. They were selling a course, how to earn $50,000 in 2 months without investment. And under it were comments. Wow, you changed my life. I bought the course, I hope for the best. And I knew that money was spent on a new camera, cover, and advertising. And the debt. Because all investments are not in the product. It's in the experience. One evening I said, Sarah, you realize that all these people are not friends. They won't come to you when the bank takes the house. She got irritating. Dad, you don't understand the new world. This is business. It's about influence. I didn't argue. Because in the new world, influence is measured by the number of reposts, not by the number of people who stayed by your side when everything was going to hell. In one video, Sarah was filming a kitchen. The light tiles play of light, the aroma of fresh coffee. But in reality, the coffee maker doesn't work, the tiles are on credit, and the coffee is from a promotion. But the camera blurs it. And the viewer sees not pain, but a dream. And they pay to touch it at least from afar. After another video, I get a call from Sarah. Dad, we need help. Just temporarily. The camera has been taken away. We need to buy it back immediately. We're about to take off. It's a moment. How much? $900. But it's under warranty. We'll pay you back, honestly. I laughed. Not evilly, just tired. Because I am not a bank. I am a father. But they don't see that anymore. Sarah is not the only one. They are surrounded by dozens of similar moms in the frame, and they are constantly on the air, partnering, advertising, and always a little more and it will work. This is a new faith. It's a credit one, without guarantees, but with a gloss. I tried to talk seriously. I sat down with them, and I said, let's sit down and write it down. How much income, how much expenses. No cameras. No subscribers. Just life. Andy brushed it off. He said, old thinking. We're not about stability. We're about breakthroughs. And then I realized I'm a spectator in a dream theater. They don't need me as a partner, only as a cash register. I can't save people who don't want to be saved. So I stopped answering the phone. I sold my old motorcycle and paid off the first part of my debt. I found a job cleaning yards in a rich neighborhood, and I started living without filters, just like that, with pain. But honestly, one day I got a call from Bill. "George, you have to see this." I opened Facebook, and there was Sarah's posting. "Dear ones, we are starting a new path. We have a new investment program for the chosen few. And at the bottom, guaranteed return. My father is a guarantor, without my knowledge. Again, stroke does not warn. Doesn't send a text message. It doesn't say, 'Hey buddy, maybe it's time to sit down.' It just comes. When you have plans. When you still think that life is somewhere ahead. It's morning. I woke up early because I had to trim the bushes at Mr. Collins' estate. I've been working for him for 5 days now, and it's quiet and well paid. While I was pruning the lilacs, a thought was running through my head. Maybe I should forgive Sarah. After all, they are children. As soon as I bent down to pick up the branches, everything went black. My eyes felt like they were filled with black paint. My hands felt like cotton wool. I wanted to say help, but it came out as do-oop. I don't remember much. A siren, a light, someone's hand on my forehead. Order, as someone was saying. Hang in there, Mr. George, everything is going to be okay. I wanted to answer, but my tongue was like a stone. I was not afraid. I was ashamed, because I am not old. I'm only 65. Elena, but I looked like a man who had lived 3 wars. When I came to, the white ceiling looked at me with pity. There was a squeak in my ear. There was a catheter on my arm. On my chest, a stain of sweat and guilt. You suffered a mild stroke. You are lucky, the doctor said. And I laughed. Mild, you say? I was just ground to a pulp, but lucky. The first day, silence. The second day, a nurse brought me, "Get well soon." Card. It was unsigned. On the third day, Bill came in. With coffee, a burger, and a warm look. He sat down next to me, was silent for a long time, and "You know they won't come." I nodded. Because I did. Sarah saw that post. The investment program she had signed me up for took off. Someone filed a lawsuit, and while I was lying under the drip, my phone was on fire with calls from strangers. Money, returns, insults, and not a single. "How are you?" I was transferred to the recovery room. They gave me lists of exercises, pills, and a list of stressors to avoid. Point 1 was financial matters. I laughed so hard that my side hurt, because my whole life is one continuous stress factor. On the 5th day, Sarah called me. Her voice was quiet. "Dad." I found out. I didn't know it was like this. I was silent. She continuing, I didn't think it would affect you so much. We were just..." And here I broke down, She just signed me up for the scam because I was convenient, just because I was a spectator, not a person. Silence, a long one. Empty. And "I'm sorry." That was it. "No, I'll come." "No, I want to see you." Just sorry. That night I dreamed of May, my late wife. She was standing in the kitchen making coffee and smiling. I saiding, "I'm tired, May." And she saiding, "I know, but just a little bit longer, George. You're still needed." I woke up with tears on my pillow, and there was some peace in that. 2 weeks later I was discharged. I returned home. Only apartment was like a museum. Empty, silent. Only a package from Bill with food on the table. And a noting, "I'm here for you. Always." It was the first time in a long time that I cried not from pain but from gratitude. The next morning I received a letter. It was from the bank. "The sale of your property has been announced in case of non-payment of the debt within 30 days. I sat down. I turned on the kettle, and I thought, okay, you win, but you can't take away one thing from me. My heart is still beating. So the show goes on. I've been thinking for a long time why we parents are silent. Why, when we are cut to pieces by our own children, do we only bury our wounds deeper? Until I realized, because we confuse love with funding. But I'm not an investor anymore. I am a father, not a bank. I woke up to a knock at the door. The postman. A package and another envelope. The package contained a bottle of cheap whiskey and a postcard. "You are the best, Dad. Happy birthday." Signing Brian. "My son, whom I haven't seen since Christmas." I open the envelope. And there's a check. But not from him. It's made out to me. It's for another credit card. In Brian's name, but with my guarantee. That's the third one. And I think it was the last one. Because I said to myself, stop. Once, 15 years ago, I had pushed him to do it. "Don't worry, son, I'll back you up. Take that business course, I'll cover everything. Live a quiet life, don't think about bills." And he, got used to it. He got used to the fact that there was a spare cushion in his life. And this pillow is my heart, my account, and my home. A few days later he came, without a call, just a ringing of the doorbell and a smile. Same Brian with fashionable sneakers, an Apple Watch on his wrist, and an expression. "Dad, I'm in trouble." I didn't call him inside. We sat on the porch. I poured myself a cup of coffee, he said. "I need a little more, Dad. The bank is pressing. I'll pay you back, I swear." I didn't answer right away. I watched the wind sway the old pine tree. Then I said calmly, "I'm not giving any more." "Not because I can't, but because I don't want to." He raised an eyebrow. "You're my father. That's why. Because I am a father. Not an ATM. It's just another loan. I'm your child. You're a grown man. With 3 children, 2 cars, and a zero balance. Were you angry? I'm tired." And then I saw something new in his eyes, fear. Real fear. Because he realized that I had changed. I am no longer a good dad who will save you. After he left, I sat in my chair and was silent for a long time. I was not thinking about money. I was thinking about love. I loved him sincerely, and maybe that's why I gave too much. Because love is not only giving everything. It is also teaching you to stand on your own 2 feet. And I gave him wings, but did not show him how to fly. In the evening, Liz, my youngest daughter, called me. She was crying. "Your dad, Brian, said you kicked him out. That you are cold." And I was silent, and then I said very quietly, "I'm warm when I'm not being burned. But we're family. That's why I have to say no when my heart says yes." You've changed. Finally, the next day I signed up for a job. Officially as a gardener. $48 a day. Ridiculous, but nice. Because it's my money, and it smells not of despair, but of sweat. I am no longer a sponsor of other people's dreams. I am the author of my life. And do you know what the worst thing is? No one has ever said, "Thank you," to me. Sometimes it seems that life after 50 has nothing new, but in fact it is just the beginning of new lessons. One thing is clear, no matter what happens, old mistakes come back for some reason. This time I met Lucille. That evening I came home late. A walk in the park, peace, quiet, but none of it filled the emptiness inside. Can I consider myself old if only yesterday life gave me another surprise? No, I am not old. I just remembered that life is not just a struggle not to lose yourself, but also to find your true self in this new world. A few hours before, I was in a cafe with a new friend, Lucille. She was 20 years younger than me, but her eyes, they had seen so much that I couldn't help but pay attention. We talked for a long time. I told her about my mistakes, and she listened, even though it was not a romance, not a passionate connection. It was something else. Then she just became my reflection, a reflection of my thoughts. And I felt that it was not just a coincidence that our paths crossed at that moment. We were walking together to the subway when I realized that this meeting reminded me of something important. Something old and painful. Somewhere inside me was my guilt. Guilt towards my children, towards my wife, towards myself. I realized that even though these were new acquaintances, I was still facing my past again. And it wasn't great. How many times have I regretted that I started teaching my children important things too late? But now that I no longer had the strength and ability to help them, I was left alone with this guilty silence. When I looked at Lucille, I couldn't help but think back to my old life. Maybe it was a mistake to try to start something new again, because there was still this feeling of absence. Lucille looked at me as if she understood. She didn't ask questions about my past, but she was still watching. No questions came up, but her calmness was striking. Perhaps in her eyes, I was the same person I had once been in my youth, carefree, inspired, and open to new possibilities. But not in this life. We talked for a few more minutes until we reached the station. Our farewell was short, as usual. We went our separate ways, like two people who never crossed paths again, even though we saw each other very closely. But after all that, I realized one thing: I would never return to the world where I could dream like I used to. The next day, I was sitting at home, going over all these thoughts in my head. And there was something else that kept bothering me, something I had never had. Was it really love? Or was it just an attempt to avoid loneliness? Or even a forbidden desire to return to my youth, and to the time when everything seemed so simple? Over time, I realized that I didn't need to find an answer to every question. Though I stopped wanting to understand everything to the end, because it only increased my doubts. What I had now was enough. I was no longer looking for perfect moments, because I realized that this incompleteness is the true part of life. But you know what? Lucille helped me to realize one thing clearly: I have the right to meet new people and make new choices. And, although I am still a person who cannot forget my old mistakes, I have at least become a person who is not afraid of change. Because who said that old age means the end? No, it's just a new start. In the next episode, I'm going to meet with myself. But am I really ready for it? And will I be able to regain my dignity? When they left the house, the empty chairs began to remind me not only of the loss, but also of the moments when I could have done more. But what can you do when everything has already gone wrong? When they left, I was alone with myself for the first time in a long time. Before, I didn't notice how often we all got together without even thinking about how much it meant. Now everything has changed. And, although I tried to look calm, the empty chairs around me spoke more than I could put into words. I went to the kitchen and sat down at the table where we always ate together. It was quiet now, and I couldn't remember the last time it had been so peaceful. No laughter, no conversations, not even the sounds of children's footsteps that used to be familiar. Only emptiness. And those chairs that seemed so important when they were occupied. How much I could have done differently when they were still at home. How much I could have loved more, communicated more, cared more. But no, I chose work, I chose excuses, I chose the belief that they would manage on their own. How often did I tell myself, I still have time? But now the time is gone, and I am left with these empty chairs that will never be the same as they were. They left because I was always busy. I was immersed in my business, in my problems, in my dreams. But as it turned out, I created a distance that was impossible to fill. My children, although they talked about love, had long ago realized that I was only present, but not important. And now, when I was sitting alone, I realized that empty chairs are not just empty spaces. They were a reflection of my mistakes, my inability to be who I was supposed to be. Digging through old albums, I found photos of us all laughing together. My wife, my children, all of us. In those photos, I was happy, and we looked like one big family that had just experienced another victory. And now I was standing in front of these empty chairs with no one else there but me. It felt like it was all a dream that I couldn't keep. Then it seemed like only yesterday we were celebrating holidays together, discussing plans, going through problems together. And now, when we all left, I realized one thing, that I forgot to keep them. Not just physically close, but also emotionally. I focused on what was important to me, but I didn't pay attention to what they needed. And perhaps that was my biggest mistake, forgetting that the real value is not the chairs at the table, but the people sitting on them. Going outside, I felt the world continue to spin, and I felt more and more distant from it. And there were people on the streets, the noise of cars, everyone is busy with their lives. They don't notice the empty chairs I left behind. These are not their chairs, not their mistakes, and they cannot understand what I feel. But I understand that I am me, and I have to learn to make my own decisions. Sometimes it seems that nothing can be changed. But I know that there is a chance, there is an opportunity. Maybe I can still change the situation. Maybe this is not the end. But I also know that I can't turn back the clock. I can't bring back those empty chairs, but I can try to fill them with at least new content. My struggle now is not to fill the empty seats, but to find peace in the silence they left. Sometimes you have to go through the emptiness to find the path. Maybe I still have time to become the father I've always wanted to be. And it all starts with accepting that not everything in life can be fixed, but moving on is always an option. I sat down at the table again, this time without the chairs that my children usually occupied. And it was not a sign of despair. It was my way to become a better person. Now I realize one thing: empty chairs are not the end, but only the beginning of something new. But am I ready to face what life will bring me next? And will I be able to find my way back to my children? Now that it's over, I look back and ask myself, did I relive the life I wanted to? Was this dream mine, or was I just following someone else's dreams? The house became even quieter than when I was alone with my thoughts. All that was left was old furniture, empty chairs, and memories of how it used to be filled with joy, laughter, even the sound of quarrels. Now I look at the walls and feel a strange emptiness. There are no sounds here anymore. No, I'm not afraid to be alone with myself. But there's something here that I couldn't understand before. All these years I've been living a life that's not my own. I was chasing the idea of success. I was raising money, achieving career heights, convincing myself that this is what was supposed to happen. But I realize now that this was not my dream. How many times have I told myself that it is important to become successful for children? How many times have I remembered the dreams I admired and convinced myself that everything would be fine? Were these dreams mine, or was I just living for something someone else had invented for me, my children? Yes, they dreamed of me being strong and successful for them, and I, in turn, tried to make those dreams come true. And here I am, sitting in an empty house, wondering if there was a substitution of concepts. If I wasn't happy, why did I keep going? Why, instead of stopping, was I afraid to look weak, afraid to say, I don't want this? At all these years, I was trying to do something for children, for my family, and even for society. But what was left for me? My dreams became a part of something bigger, and I seemed to have forgotten about myself. Now I see how blindly I walked along this path, not noticing how I was forgetting myself. And now I'm sitting in this empty chair, looking at the world outside the window and thinking about how much hasn't been said. There were no conversations where I could share my pain, my doubts. There were no moments when I could stop and tell myself that I live for myself, not for everyone else. But why did I never allow myself to be weak? Why did I always strive to look successful in the eyes of others? Society dictated its own rules. I followed them, and I began to believe that this was my path. And now that I have lost everything, I realized that I was following in someone else's footsteps. It was not my path, but someone else's dreams. My pension, my efforts, all those years I spent working are not my dream. I forgot how to dream for myself. I didn't allow myself to. And now that everything has changed, I look at my old photos and ask myself if I had done things differently. Would I have been happy? I look at myself in the mirror and see not an old man, but someone who still has a chance. Maybe I haven't lost everything completely, but now I know that I have the right to think about myself. That maybe it's time to change everything that happened and start dreaming for myself. Isn't this a chance for a new beginning? I don't know if I can build something new again or if it's too late. I may never get answers to these questions, but I have the right to ask them. Maybe at this moment I have to find what was lost, my true dream. The house is empty, but it's not the end. It's a new beginning to build what I really want. It may not be a big house, but it will be my dream. It may not be the way I imagined it before, but it will be my way now. And even if I can't turn back time, I have the right to start dreaming in a new way. Or maybe this dream that I always thought was mine was not really mine. Maybe it was just what I wanted society to believe, what my family wanted to believe. But I guess the real dream is starting only now. But what awaits me on this path?